What was meant to be just another remarkable chapter in his incredible racing career took an unexpected turn, claiming the life of one of the most talented Superbike riders, Owen Jenner. Join us as we cover the journey of this rising star and try to figure out the details of Owen's final race, which left the racing world in shock. Owen Jenner was born on March 31st, 2004 in Crosborough, England. From a very young age, Owen developed a deep interest in riding thanks to his father Michael, who introduced him to the dirt bikes. And this early interest would later become his passion that only grew stronger as he got older. His family, especially his dad, jump-started his racing career by giving him his first motorcycle, which they reportedly got with help from a family friend. At an age where most kids were learning to tie their shoelaces, Owen was out there in the fields riding motorcycles, and it was clear from the start that Owen possessed a natural talent for it. Then at the age of 5, Owen started competing in junior motocross events, which were known as a stepping stone for young riders in the UK. And these initial races became his training ground where he developed his skills and gained technical knowledge which would help him progress quickly. Owen later said in an interview that his parents, particularly his father, were his backbone through his initial motocross career, where he would spend hours and hours on track while maintaining his motorcycle and giving his endless support. Then, in July of 2017, he got a life-changing opportunity to race on the tarmac roads during the inaugural British Talent Cup selection event which took place at the Silverstone circuit. And just a year later, in 2018, at the age of 14, Owen made a pivotal decision to transition from dirt track to the asphalt circuits, where he decided to participate in the British Motorcycle Racing Club Series. And his performance in his debut year was nothing short of extraordinary, where he dominated the field and became the Team Green champion. That said, the sport was costly, and his family didn't have a bottomless budget. In fact, he later mentioned in an interview that he knew he had to make sacrifices, and that it was easy for him to get distracted by social media and other irrelevant things. That's pretty relatable. So he came up with a rule where he would turn off his phone from Friday all the way to Sunday, and work regular jobs to earn money for fuel and tires, just to keep his racing dream alive. And his hard work finally paid off in 2020 when Owen was competing in the British Junior Supersport Championship. He went head-to-head against the much-experienced riders and managed to achieve 5 wins and 7 podiums before securing the championship title, which proved to everyone that he was the real deal. But this sport can also be cruel at times. At the age of 17, when he moved up to the Junior Superstock class with 600cc motorcycles, which were much harder to control, he suffered a major crash at Snenhorten. It left him wondering if the financial struggles and physical pain were really worth it, and to a point where he even started contemplating whether he should just quit his racing career. That being said, through the support of his family, he kept grinding, and by 2023 he mastered the motorcycle, where he then achieved a total of 2 wins and 9 podiums to claim his second national title as the 2023 Pirelli National Superstock Champion. Not stopping there, in 2024 he continued his dominance with a total of 18 wins and 20 podiums in a single season in the GP2 class, which earned him the British GP2 Championship title. Owen decided to keep the same momentum as he entered the 2025 season, but in a tragic twist, it would be the same year where his journey would come to an abrupt end. On Monday, May 5th, 2025, during the 3rd day of the British Supersport Championship, which was held at Oulton Park in Cheshire, England, the atmosphere around the circuit seemed lively. According to the TNT Sports broadcast, the event had attracted a bumper crowd, which was the biggest in a decade, with the fans queuing for hours and hours just to get into the track that morning. Among the competing riders, 21-year-old Owen Jenner, who had recently joined the Rapid Honda team, seemed unusually confident and happy. Owen was never one to shy away from a challenge, but that day his excitement wasn't just because of the race, it was his father's birthday. In fact, he even shared a heartfelt post through Facebook saying, "Happy birthday to the old boy. Wouldn't be where I am without him, and I know he wouldn't be anywhere else on a special day." According to team members, Owen had planned to celebrate his father's birthday after the race and wanted to dedicate a win to him, but unfortunately fate had other plans. That afternoon at around 3:30 p.m. local time, the race kicked off as usual with riders packed on the grid aiming for an early position. The Supersport race is typically fast and more aggressive because of the size of the field and the challenging layout. That being said, on the very first lap, when the initial group of motorcycles reached the narrow and technical Old Hull corner at turn 1, the race took a dramatic turn, with a significant multi-bike collision. The incident started when 29-year-old rider Shane Richardson, who was riding the number 28 Suzuki motorcycle, suddenly went off the curb and high-sided at turn 1. To put it in simple terms, his motorcycle lost control while entering the turn, where he further got thrown off and slid back onto the racing line. Harvey Claridge, who was just behind Shane riding number 16, immediately applied his brakes and tried to avoid the crash. And although he somehow managed to navigate through the chaos, Owen, who repeatedly was just milliseconds behind Harvey, had almost no time to react. He then clipped Harvey's rear tire, which made him lose control and fall hard onto the asphalt. And as if things couldn't get any worse, both Shane and Owen ended up directly in front of a tightly packed group of riders behind them. Just a second later, multiple motorcycles collided with Owen and Shane, which further triggered a massive chain reaction. The situation was harrowing as the repeated impacts proved to be fatal and caused major injuries to Owen's helmet. Spectators watched in shock as the chaotic scene unfolded on the track, hoping that all riders would be safe. As the dust settled and damaged motorcycles gradually came to a halt, most of the riders seemed unharmed, all but two: Owen Jenner and Shane Richardson. I was maybe a row behind them, maybe 5 or 6 bikes behind them, maybe a bit more, rider Morgan McLaren Wood said. It was absolute chaos. There was nothing anyone could do. Bikes were scattered everywhere. There was no space for anyone to maneuver. The track was so narrow and there wasn't much runoff area either. Meanwhile, looking at the gravity of the situation, the race was immediately red flagged and medical personnel, as well as safety crews, swiftly rushed to the scene to assess the situation. They later said in their statements that both Owen and Shane were in critical condition and seemed unresponsive. The crew started emergency treatment right there at the crash site and later moved Owen to the Circuit Medical Center. That being said, even after the best efforts of doctors and paramedics, Owen never responded to the resuscitation. And just like that, at around 4 p.m. local time, he was pronounced dead at the age of 21. On the other side, Shane Richardson also received emergency medical attention at the Circuit's Medical Center. His injuries, however, were too severe, where it was decided to transport him to the nearby Royal Stoke University Hospital. But he sadly lost his life en route. He was just 29 years old. According to the medical spokesperson, Owen's official cause of death was revealed to be blunt force trauma to the head, while Shane's autopsy revealed major chest trauma, perhaps caused by the impact of other motorcycles. A combined investigation by the Motorcycle Circuit Racing Control Board, Motorsport Vision, and the Cheshire Police Department started immediately after the incident. According to their initial statements, it was indeed a horrifying crash which involved a total of 11 riders. Aside from the 2 tragic deaths, another rider, 47-year-old Tom Tunstall, was also seriously injured during the chain reaction. He sustained a fractured neck bone with significant back and abdominal injuries, where he was immediately hospitalized after initial treatment. And while he somehow managed to survive, perhaps because of his luck, the same couldn't be said for Owen and Shane. Moreover, 8 other riders, including Carl Harris, Max Morgan, Cameron Hall, Freddie Barnes, and Morgan McLaren Wood, received little to no injuries and didn't require hospitalization. It was one of the worst crashes I've seen, and many of my colleagues I've been speaking to overnight, commenter Greg Haynes said later. According to some official findings, Shane Richardson entered the turn at a speed ranging between 60 to 80 miles an hour, where he lost control, perhaps because of cold tires or debris at the corner. And when Owen lost control after briefly coming in contact with the rear of Harvey's motorcycle, the riders following them had nowhere to go, because of the narrow corner and limited runoff area. These initial crashes set off a chain reaction with 9 other riders, in which Owen and Shane ended up sustaining their fatal injuries. Some experts, as well as commentator Greg, hinted at the fact that the incident may have been because of the aggressive early race positioning pressure. And while some would say that the tragedy might have been prevented with a slightly different track layout or more attention to the tight Turn 1 section, the fact remains that the world of motorsport lost 2 of its most promising riders that day. On Thursday, June 12, 2025 at 1 p.m., Owen's funeral took place at Ken and Sussex Crematorium in Tunbridge Wells, which was reportedly attended by his family, close ones, and important figures from the racing community. According to the official Facebook post after the service, a bar and buffet was organized to celebrate his life and achievements. Our best day of racing has been turned to the worst imaginable. If you ever spent time with Owen, then you'll feel the same terrible loss we do, racing community member Steve Wilfmore said while expressing his grief. In the aftermath of the crash at the following BSB round at Oulton Park, the paddock held a tribute for both riders, and a moment of silence was observed on the circuit as well as on TV. As we reflect on Owen Jenner's life, we see not just an ambitious young man, but a promising young rider who was so full of life. What truly set him apart was his incredible work ethic as well as his dedication to the sport. He knew the risks and dangers of the sport full and well, and yet he still raced to chase the dream that young boy from Crosborough once saw. When I get back to racing, every other fear disappears, and I get stuck back in. I've had crashes where if I had an impact at a slightly different angle, I could have died. But this is what I love doing, and I wouldn't be happy if I wasn't racing. Ride in peace, Owen Jenner and Shane Richardson.